His parents are ready.
Yeah,
Because it's been out in Target for a month.
right.
That's Christmas.
Then put Christmas stuff up. Let's see. School supplies are out of the way. 6 o'clock, so we can call the regular meeting to order. Change of the agenda that. Yeah. Take motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Fair say aye. Aye. Agenda's approved. The consent items.
I'd just like to say, well done, everyone. Coming in under budget. Yeah, about 100,000. Or just under 3%.
Fantastic.
Pardon?
It's fantastic.
It is.
I'd like to say thank you to you guys, building admins and you guys. You're the ones that keep an eye on it and have to say all the no's all the time. So. But I would have been anxiously waiting to see that.
Yes, well, I usually send out an email and that was last week. And I'm like, well, we're being so early this month that I'll just film that. I left the anticipation a little longer, actually.
Now I can see.
What keeps you up at night? Speaking to this, what? It's not one question. Black. Yeah.
Surprised to see that.
That's what you asking if we want to talk about. Like, not yet.
I do think, how long do you keep balances or funds opened?
A year. So,
So I'm looking at some of these and I was like, why do we still have that balance or whatever?
like, give me an idea.
So like Applegate, having the Applegate tier fund balance, like when. will
So
that-
it's not necessarily Applegate anymore. It rolls over to the new person.
Okay, cause like there'll be multiple fund balances for the same
Yes, so,
activity, and so I just was curious.
yep, so, so now that we're in the new, so we've actually had a changing of the guard there quite a bit. So I'm waiting for the dust to settle, then I'll change the name, cause it rolls over to the new coach. Just like Haas, you see House Break basketball, that'll roll over to Stride basketball now.
And those are their fundraising balances.
Yeah, those are their.
That's what I figured.
And like Luther football will go to Hasselberg football.
Okay.
So, yeah,
You have to put the coach on there. You can't just call it cheer fund.
well, no, because we
that's
also have that.
That's a district.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. This is their
So,
fundraising.
yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
It's pretty hard to get the coaches to really understand what's happening, and so
Right.
it's,
Okay.
it's easier for me to explain if I give them a personal name to it, you know what I mean? It really isn't their money, it's public funds, but
Right.
that's how they distinguish between the two.
Okay.
Questions?
Hmm.
Approved.
So moved. Second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Send items approved. Response for the month. On the public forums, Steve.
I would like to begin with sort of an apology here. Last week, at the very end of the meeting after you adjourned, because of the last item mentioned of the superintendent's report, took me by surprise. And I ended up asking you to just give me a minute or two here. I had not done that in the 40 years I've been attending school board meetings, so I really thank you for that. But that's the reason I wanted to expand on that just a little bit with more details. I do have more details now. Two of my grandsons, one in Ames and one down here, were diagnosed with ADHD when they started school. So they've dealt with this all the time that they've been in school, as I mentioned last week. I had an opportunity because the one at Ames has a birthday on the 4th of July. I was up there that weekend. So I got to talk to the whole family, that one including my son and daughter-in-law, to look at what he was going through. And even with support at the school, like you were using here with instructors, he was falling behind. The last year was his senior year. Last fall, they got him started on a special computer program, which I'm guessing, even though the name was different, it was probably similar to the one that you were talking about at the end of your superintendent's report. He was able to get caught up at a speed that was absolutely stunning to everybody around him, including his folks who had watched him struggle all through school. The program was interacting with him and adapting to what it was seeing from him, and it was enabling him to catch on faster than when he was having the support of trying to work with individual teachers and other things going on. That's the gist of the whole thing. Unfortunately, it took him till 2 weeks after the graduation ceremony to actually complete it, so he didn't get to attend that. But he did get his high school diploma, and they did let him have a cap and a gown, so they got pictures and everything, but he was done and feeling better than he had the entire time he'd been in school, because he was actually learning something and getting caught up with things that he'd been struggling with and not really getting that well before. Okay, the one down here, until this past school year, I struggled like they did with support not being sufficient, but also as those of you who have been attending, and there aren't that many left here in the school board meetings, I've been complaining about the curriculum for a very long time, even when my kids were in school. But that's been getting corrected. This past year, the support did improve, but then you still have other factors going on. You have life factors. So you can be having issues with students in the school, and you can be having issues at home or outside of your life. There was an article in last week's Newton paper about Berg School, and they were listing a whole bunch of things like that and all the issues going on. Anyway, at the beginning of the spring semester, he was put on a similar program. The name is different than the one Ames uses, but he was put on that. Well, they also set him up with 3 online classes from teachers being taught here. He still needed the additional support getting through those, but he had to complete them by May. So once those were done and he could actually turn more attention to these other 2 special programs, he started figuring out, as we did, the extent to which they interact and adapt to what they are seeing from him. Which is a very big change for the entire education situation for the students that need things like this, and why I was so interested to have that come up. And in your superintendent's report, you were talking about, and I'm guessing using that to expand to other students that have been struggling and having problems. Okay, I'm trying to keep it as short as I can here, because in addition to the content of the actual classes that you're taking, you still have things like well, are you putting up with bullying things? Because this was in the news article last week too. And we know there's students that are. Is there some way of having them do these programs where they're less and less exposed, in addition to the changes that you've been making here this past year, that will not interfere with their focus? The other more challenging aspect, what are maybe going on like at home or someplace outside the school that you know, something might be happening. Are you in a position to even try to find some support for something like that? That can be interfering, but at least you could know about it. So these are things to be dealing with as you move through this. But that was one of the reasons that I was very happy to hear about this expansion of the program to try to help a lot more students. And I wanted to make sure, based on life experiences, that you were aware that there are a number of other potential things you may have to kind of reorganize around the school here to be able to provide the support the students would need to actually be more successful. And based on that also, they could also help get you more towards proficiencies and higher from the basic skills, since the Iowa legislature passed that legislation and the governor signed it into law this last session here. That's all I wanted to get to tonight. So I'm really glad to see you start. I really would appreciate periodic updates in some way, shape, or form, if not here in the newsletter somehow, so the public knows. I'm sure they could add something to some comments or ask questions, get them engaged. Thank you.
Thank you.
Business items. First one, there's membership. It's just a routine item, that we have to document in our minutes, that we will keep a 5-member board configuration, and then the actual membership of the board.
Concerns with the 5-member board.
That well?
Take a motion to approve the continuation of the 5-member board. Currently consists of myself, John Northrop, Tyler Egan, acting chair, and Ray Heisler.
So moved.
Second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved board policy codes.
So this is the cell phone legislation, student use of electronic devices. This has to be in board policy now prior to the start of the school year. So this is, we're doing 2 readings, or we?
You can do one. We'll be done with this one.
Yeah.
When it's fed.
It's required, right? It is required, so,
And we
but-
aren't changing really anything to our procedures.
Yeah.
anyway.
we don't really change anything to the procedure. So 2 things I would tell you on this is, boards have the option to add a regulation to this policy. You can do it one of 2 ways. You can add a regulation and put it into board policy, or you can make the regulations administrative. What we're recommending to do is make the regulations administrative. They exist in a handbook. They're a little more flexible than if you have turnover in your admin and they want to institute different things as far as consequences for violation of the policy. If you put it into board policy as a regulation, you have a change in admin. Every time you have a change in admin that want to change the consequences for violation, you've got to change your board policy. So the way we have it written is that the regulations are done administratively and will exist in the student handbook. The other thing it does there is it spells out what instructional time is. So instructional time is spelled out as all class time bell to bell, not necessarily in between classes or at lunch.
Correct. So very similar to the way it's been.
Yeah, pretty
For the
much
high school level, middle school still
is none.
no go.
I think as far as the regulation part goes, say you do it this first year, I'm like, oh, that didn't work out very well. You can beef it up a little more, or say
Absolutely.
that was too much, or, you know, flexibility there year to year.
Absolutely.
A lot more than we would as far as I think we're doing in the classrooms.
We can just do it as a first reading. We have our August meetings before the start of school.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll just do no action, be first reading.
So have it
What did you
updated.
just say? And so you're not You're
Because
gonna
we
do
still
it.
have-
We'll just do it, we can just do it, we can
Okay.
do it as 2 readings.
Because we can still update it before school.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, we can still implement it and have it passed before the start of the school year. Any questions on the policy? Okay. I'll let Julie speak to the next one, because she's done a ton of work on this. We had a lot of cleanup to do with our policies, and we actually really started this process last fall. And actually brought a lot of it to our attention, which was great, about getting some obsolete things out of there, so I'll let you speak more to that.
Yeah, so, when you read through this, you're gonna see a lot of stricken things, and those are what the existing policy is. The red is the recommendation from the IASB. Very rarely would we change anything, when it comes from IASB, because generally, that's what their lawyers have said, that that's what needs to be in our policies. So, you know, if it's, more, you know, administrative, verbiage, then we, you know, we may, you know, move it to a handbook as opposed to a policy or something like that, but ISB gives us that guidance. They'll say this is a mandatory policy, or they'll say this is a recommended policy, but here's what we think that you should have in it. So none of the red that you see is us just freewheeling it, you know, and putting whatever we want in there. It's the meat and potatoes of our board policies, so it is long but it's about the instruction and it's about the personnel, so it's pretty important. The latest is, if you remember, the DEI and all that good stuff. With Trump taking that out, so we had to change some of the verbiage in there. You'll see that in there, that's been changed, so.
Yeah, I mean, we used a primer, IASB has a primer. New pronounce it primer, I don't, they say
They say
they pronounce it both ways, I don't know,
Yeah.
but. Basically, what the advantage of that is IASB has lawyers they can run all of it through. And so you can go out of board policies and pull up 325 districts in the state, and it's the exact same wording, because it's already been run through there. Yeah, if you ever get to a point, I can tell you that we have a subscription and purchase a program at GMG, it's called Simbly. And so they partner with IASB for policies, and it's just automatic. I don't want to say it too loud, because Julie just always works, so.
And I cringe when I lose that control.
Correct. That's why I didn't even bring up the meetings portion. They have a meetings program too, and I won't even go there, so. Most of this comes to us. Typically, what they'll do is highlight or italicize the area that a district needs to specify for their own needs. So your example would be within the electronic, student use of electronic device. What was really highlighted in there was just what you're defining as instructional time. Because some districts may say instructional time is the minute you walk in the door to the minute you leave. It includes passing time, it includes lunch, you don't get your funds at that time.
So out of that whole policy, there was one
One
sentence
line.
that we
they-
have the ability
That we
to
really would,
do something.
no action on this, right?
Uh-uh.
Any questions on the process?
No, I've not cracked this open yet. I'm waiting for, you know, and I really need something fun to look forward to. But I can't remember, do you have to then go in and you'll remove all the stricken, change everything?
After you
color,
approve it,
green,
yep.
you'll
Yeah.
change
It'll
all
all
the
look pretty
by
here.
states again?
Yep,
Okay.
yep. So once we get to the second reading it, you approve them as updated,
That's
as recommended. Yep.
And then this gets posted
This
as
is
a
live
link
on our
to our
website.
new site, but is the,
It's already there like this.
On the,
that was my third, okay.
Yep, that's a little bit of the downfall of
Like, there's gotta be,
having it on the website.
well, I feel like we can have two versions, can't we?
No,
You can't have like a, assumed changes, so like people could come out here and see this, even though it has stuff that we have not approved.
yeah,
Like, to me, that is a bigger issue, like, what if we do not agree with the changes that have been made?
Well, I think that you have to look at the approved, the reviewed, the revised dates. That's why those are there at the end of each policy.
We can take it offline, but I would like to see us at least have, I get when it's electronic.
I would be concerned with two different versions of things getting put in one place and not in another, or taken out in one place and not in another.
Maybe we can chat through different options for comments or something, but like to put things live before there's been an ability to look at it or approve it, you're essentially, because they don't know, like if somebody, Sue comes on here to look at a policy, all she sees is that it's reviewed and revised. She doesn't know that, like, I know we have coloring, but that doesn't mean that she understands that we haven't actually approved anything that's in red.
Okay.
Like, to me, it looks like we're saying that anything that's in red, yep, we reviewed and revised in September last year and it's approved.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So that, like, I would love to see us come up with
Yeah, so,
an alternative
so,
in the future.
yeah, so, once we get past this meeting, because now you have started the review process, now I can go in there and change that September of 2024 to August of
Sure,
2025.
but it's more so that it hasn't been approved. Well, I
Right.
guess I see what you're saying, but.
Yeah.
approved it.
And so then, and normally, because we got out of the normal succession of doing this, none of this would have the September 24 in there in red already. But because we're behind a year, and I had edited a lot of those a year ago, that's why it has September 24 in there. Normally, it would be the September 21. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
This year is a little bit of an anomaly with the 4s to 6s.
So yeah, I think I'm less concerned about that as I am just that we're presenting a policy as being approved that's not technically approved.
I think some of these new ones, are just completely brand new, like, well, the self, right? It's all red, it's got an approved date, but no reviewed and revised. If that date was in reviewed rather than approved, then you know, it's just being reviewed right now. Because right now, it's listed as approved. 24.
In 24.
But there's still no reviewed and revised date, so maybe if that date was just in reviewed.
Yeah, and I'm happy to do that. I just thought, okay, if it's a
I mean-
brand new policy, you weren't reviewing it because you haven't seen it yet.
Right. But it's also at the same time, it's not approved yet either.
Yep. I think once we get past this, we'll get back into the normal flow of things and it'll be different.
We may have some better.
So like this one's kind of been modified, stricken out, and basically a whole new.
Yeah, I don't know, or, you know, one of the things maybe we could do also is state on there that language in red is draft. And you know what
I
I'm
think
saying,
that
that language in
would be
black
easier to do.
is current
Yeah,
policy,
so I-
language in red is draft policy. I don't, I mean, that might be a way to.
We have that
Or we could
already on
simply-
there. I don't know if it's not on there anymore, not on the new site, but it said that exactly that.
Gotcha.
Policies are reviewed on an annual basis and it gave a.
Chance to use the new website.
It's nice.
The-
If board policies are in red, yellow, green, or stricken, it is being reviewed by the board for changes.
So how would somebody know what our existing policy is?
It's in black.
So it's not none of the color, right?
So like any of these that are brand new, all of these that are just all red, we don't have a policy. on this, is what we're
Correct.
saying,
Technically,
even though it says it's approved.
That's what I'm saying, maybe if that approved date was in reviewed or something. You know, because I do see what.
I mean, I know there's
there's
some
no
going to
date.
challenge us
Or no
on
date,
this.
yeah, or no date. Yeah.
It's
But
not-
like say we started on a year ago. So
Can you put pending approval with a current date?
I just divert in this day and age, there's lots of versioning abilities. And if somebody were to challenge us and stuff, I feel like we'd be running in circles in some situations. And I feel like it's just something we can work through to remove that as a risk. I don't think it's a huge deal. It's just one that I think that could be cleaned up.
figure out maybe.
Chris, what does that cost there to GMG?
Simply,
Yeah.
they have 6 different programs. Right now, we currently utilize meetings and policies, and it's about $3,000 a year.
And
So
how-
if you
how
just
does
did
that work?
policies, might be $1,500 a year.
So if you're reviewing policies, what does that look like in there? Do you know yet?
I know I can show you, yes. You have the ability to change, it does it in the background, it does what Ashley is asking for. I mean, honestly, because it can be in a draft mode and it's not public facing, but you have the ability to move it to first reading, second reading, and then approved, and then place it for you. Honestly, the biggest thing, probably the best thing that Simply did for us up there was simply, we gave them all of our policies. They basically reworked them all, aligned them with IASB primer policies, and numbered them the same as IASB. So anytime IASB comes out with a new policy based on legislation, all we have to basically do is insert it and then make the edit online.
Oh,
The ease of use is unbelievable.
I mean, I get that we'd like to have the ability to have our own control on things. Sounds like that gives us the opportunity to make.
Yeah,
edits. And if it can streamline,
yeah, that's.
it's like $1,000 a year, it's worth a lot less than the hours that had to have been spent.
Correct, and that would,
Going through it,
and that would
yes,
still
yeah.
be spent moving forward.
Yeah,
I think we paid them $1,000 to do the background work for us, and it was well worth it.
so is it 3,000 every year, no matter what, or just startup?
Well, I don't know if they have rate increases, but that's what their base price for those two are right now.
I just,
Really, and then we may look at it, we may have some conversations about it a little bit more in depth too. One of the issues we ran into, not that there's anything wrong with Google. And that Julie's not going anywhere, but was ownership, right? So you have an administrator who's the owner of your policies and they leave. So now you're scrambling because how do I get access to this? You're going to your tech guy, I need access to their account. I've got to transfer ownership on Google to go over this. Well, how do I do drafts on Google? Well, I'm gonna have to have 3 or 4 different Google Docs.
and that's,
Draft mode, this, where they do that for you. Like that's what that program is built for. I think right now they're at about 200 schools that are utilizing it.
and that's exactly the issue that we were having this year. And Michael had like a version over here, and,
I'm,
GMG was our HR person, and so then they also had a version, and then I had the version that I thought we were working on, and so when I start, that's what I'm afraid of.
so, and actually the Simply rep, who is, that I worked with, who's actually the president of IASB. So they work in hand with IASB, has been here before. I worked with them through GMG down here, met me here once. So I'd be more than happy to look into what that would cost from Simply's standpoint for policies only at this point. And then it's basically taken completely off your plate. All they
It
would,
wouldn't bother me. at all.
all they would want from
Seriously.
you is to give them the Google Doc.
Yeah.
They'll take it and upload it and they'll align it with IASB policy.
I think it'd be very interesting to evaluate it.
Well, and it's funny
And-
because our new website, they actually said, well, we'd prefer to have your
That's why I was hoping.
your board policies in PDF. I was just instructed by my board like 3 years ago to get them out of PDF and get them onto, so that we can edit them in a Google environment, so we can put them on our website.
Mm.
Like, I don't want them on our website.
Well, I look at other opportunities, like some of the other, when we were looking at website stuff, most people have them like
They do,
linked on their site. Where you just
yeah,
click
they
on
do.
the individual numbers and not have to go into.
Yeah. So the law is that you have to have, the public has to have them accessible, right? So
Right.
back in the day, as long as I had a binder in the library and a binder in my office, that was good enough. You know, well, now it's more tech driven and, you know, so you are a little bit behind the eight ball if you don't have them on your website.
I can send you, we don't have our assembly policies forward facing yet. We're still doing some background work up there. But I have got a good friend who did it prior to me at Silio Sheet, and I can send you their website so you can see what it would look like.
I would be interested to see, to evaluate it.
So I'm just curious what the process is when you're reviewing them. So then the board, so we provide a link to the board for that first reading because it's in draft form, so it's behind the scenes.
Yeah,
Maybe you don't want to speak to it.
I can speak to it, because I can speak to it, it would be a little bit different down here as we would have a link to it. Up there, I'm using simply for the meeting and the policies. So when I create the agenda up there, it just gives me the option to insert the draft. I just have to click a box
Oh.
because they're linked together. But it would not be difficult to provide a link within that and use the current agenda format we're using. Yeah, that rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So you look over those for next month. Great.
Please.
Well, since Clay's here. Yeah, that.
Okay, I know you guys talked a little bit about the alternative pathways program last month. Is there any, I don't know, is there any question? I mean, here's the thing, I know Mr. Pearson kind of talked to this already, and I see it in the description on the agenda too. Not something that we like actively like, oh, hey, you should do this, but it's more, I know, Ray, you asked me when it came around to graduation time and approving seniors and such, and it was like, oh, how many are not making it? Well, that was a situation where we had a student that had moved in that was significantly credit deficient, and there was just no possible way with the way things are set up for us that student was ever gonna graduate, unfortunately. We have another student like that. It would be more like students that are like, yeah, life circumstances, pregnancies, illnesses, those types of things. Just the ability, I feel like we do a really nice job on the other end of things, right? Students that want, concurrent enrollment classes, want DMAC courses, want the trades programs and those kind of things. I feel like we have a lot of nice offerings for students that can get to those programs, that have access to those programs. But this would be more for some of those that just, their situations are very unique. And they need additional supports. So I guess just to kind of sum that program up, that was the intent and the only intent behind that.
I think my feedback was, I love that we have something we're creating for it. I think it's great. I would love to know when we have individuals that join it, so we can keep informed. Is it successful? Are we needing to
Sure.
pivot? If they end up falling out of it, what were the reasons?
Sure.
And then if somebody, when they're graduating, know that they're graduating with different level of diploma, just for awareness of if we see trends over time. This was started as one thing and then over years it became something different. Yeah. And this is just a general thing that I think I brought up with Mr. E before, but I know we do some post-grad surveying. I think it'd be interesting to see how far out and if these individuals, like, if we can get a response back from them.
Yeah.
How those results, is this setting them up better for 5 years down the road than what our previous path was? And
Sure.
what feedback do they have years out of the program? But that's just.
Yeah. I like that idea.
And with that, the program, because I've established this in a couple of other districts, the other pathway for the kid was for us to report as a dropout.
And
Those are
that's,
the two options.
that's what it boils down to right now. We don't have a West Academy like Newton. We don't have an alternative, I don't remember the name of the program at South Tama when I worked there, but we just don't have programs like that. That support students that are just. They're most likely not gonna make it in a traditional sense.
I think it's great, just a good idea to continue to evaluate how you can optimize.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, so the other handbooks and such, so the student handbook, the standards, or do we need to approve?
Yeah, let's do those are separate, let's do those separate.
So I guess another question about the top alternative program. If a student just isn't getting it done, is there a point where it's like you can't support them anymore? I mean, the resources that it takes.
Yeah.
Is there a point that, okay, this just isn't working then? I mean, not that
yeah.
you want to give up, you're not giving up, on
No.
it, it's just not working for them. It's
Right.
where does that point at? Or is there
Oh,
that?
gosh.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, it's kind of at that,
This,
at the
to me,
finish line,
this maybe
basically.
just provides you one more level of safety net. But that you do reach a point over time where failing, and then, yeah, it is
I mean,
basically.
it's December and graduation's coming up, and they're still 20 credits short. They're just not doing it. I mean,
Right.
how do you just end that program, I guess, for them? Is that a possibility in here?
And then it would be,
Sure.
that student does then become a dropout.
Right, right.
Because they'd be the same, they're in the same courses, everybody else, correct?
It's just a difference in the number of electives.
Absolutely,
So core requirements are all the same.
correct.
How does it work? So you have a student that's been here, say 4 years in high school, or 3 years. And they've failed classes repeatedly, and then so they're gonna be credit deficient. Is that still a program for them to kind of work themselves back into it? Or
I don't envision it for that type of scenario.
because I mean, it's too much to make up.
Correct.
Okay.
And I will say that we really don't have, we did, at least this year, we really didn't have that many students that failed courses that were here, that were, that have been with us. But there is always that potential. But
I don't know, you may have not had to use it all, you may have had to use it once. What we ran into, I guess, a little bit from a forward facing standpoint, or I have in prior districts, is I've got a senior class of 19. One dropout changed that percentage quite a bit from a graduation rate standpoint. I was able to utilize something like this at times, like he's talking about, to keep that rate really where it should be. And I think like Clay said, I don't envision this being utilized very often in general, that's safe to say.
correct. I don't see it at all next year.
So the coordinator is,
It's myself, Mr. Needed. Yeah.
there's a, right. You got a list in there, but qualifications, I guess, I'd
Right.
say.
Yeah, if someone came to me and just asked about it, no. We almost have, it's almost like driven by loss. Yeah. There's
Probably more often than not, it's gonna be a referral
Correct,
from Mr. D or him.
Yes.
There is technically an application within your handbook.
correct. There is.
Somebody wanted to apply for it, but very rarely are you gonna see that actually happen. They're gonna say, listen, let's try this route. This is not working for whatever reason, or we can't get you to where you need to be.
That's it. Questions? For all the work done putting that together.
Yeah.
Take a motion to approve the alternative graduation program. Favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved, now.
Okay. Now I'll jump into the other things. All right. student handbook, standard base grading, handbook, and, adding an incident progression. Feel like we could kind of be here all night with some of this stuff, but, I just kind of wanted to put this document together, kind of highlight the major changes, because I know you all get bombarded sometimes with questions and that kind of thing, so I just didn't want there to be surprises. There are, and I would say this is a very abnormal year in the sense that, like, I remember talking about this with Mr. Peterson on August 1st of last year. There's things we need to change, and I was like, nope, let's play it out this year. And going into year 2, we can start to make these changes. So this is a lot, and that is extremely abnormal. It should not be that way moving forward into the future. I guess the ones I really, and if there's other things you guys have questions on, I kind of tried to point out the ones that were like significantly like big changes. Maybe just a little background would be helpful too. I did meet, I proposed the drafts and asked for feedback, asked for comments. That I gave all my staff the ability to comment. If it wasn't before spring break, it was right after spring break, so they had at least a couple months. And I reminded them a couple times, like, hey, I need updates, I need comments, I need feedback. So my staff have a lot of opportunities to give feedback. I sat down with a handful of staff members after school ended in late May, and we revisited the handbooks, both the student handbook and the SRG. And we made these changes, we tweaked them, so it wasn't just like myself. I mean, I try to get a team approach to that, get feedback from my staff. I also get quite a bit of feedback from the senior exit interviews that I was a part of, not only from the students, but also from their families, that one, SRG really needed to change, and even quite a few things within the student handbook that they just gave us a lot of feedback on. So had some student input, had some parent input, and then of course a lot of my staff gave quite a bit of feedback. So this is kind of a accumulation of all of that, I guess. The biggest things from the student handbook, I wanted to point out that we wanted to add some component within for academic eligibility, basically like taking a look, and I even put some specific dates in there for midterm grade polls. Because the way we were doing things, we were following the state law that basically says, hey, at the end of a grading period, you assess it and determine eligibility for extracurriculars and that kind of thing. But I just didn't feel like that was good enough. A lot of my staff felt like, we would have students that would just kind of slough it off, and they just really wouldn't do a whole lot. And then all of a sudden, right at the end of a semester, I need to be eligible, so I need to do this. You need to help me be eligible, basically. And we can't do that. So just adding a couple grade polls in there, changing some of the things within SRG, so giving some unit deadlines. We just didn't really have any parameters when it came to requests for reassessments. I mean, and that was feedback I actually got from students too, that were saying like, SRG, it's nice, but like, I don't try very hard the first time I do an assessment because I know it doesn't really matter and I can just come back and do it again. Like, well, that's not really the intent of it. The intent is to see like what you really truly, what standards you don't really understand or are struggling with, and then come to the table and follow through and get some things in place so that they have an opportunity to reassess. But there should be some effort put into it up front. So that was a big adjustment that we wanted to put in. I am going to add, at least open it up a little bit, open campus senior release. We technically already have a senior release policy. We've had that in place. But I am going to, for seniors only, and there's kind of some criteria within. Seniors really thought that we should give this a go, like over the lunch periods and that kind of thing, especially if they butt up against an open period. But students are going to have to have some, there's again parameters about it. Like, I'm not just going to open it up to everybody. If you haven't earned it, you're just not going to have it. So I wanted to make sure that was outlined as well. We are going to at least give that a shot this year, and we will assess that and see how it goes. And students are going to know right up front, like, I mean, if you're already getting back, like, I mean, you're not going to be eligible for it. I mean, we're not going to just let you go.
And we've trimmed their lunchtime down.
And it's trimmed down too. So yes, that is very true. Were there any like major popping questions from the student handbook that you wanted to ask about? know there was a lot in there.
You know, there's a chance.
What's
I'm
that?
just giving others the chance. Okay, so I appreciated the like rundown of here are the changes. My first comment out of the gate is between this and the SRG expectations.
Yep.
Changing, how do we plan to communicate that early and often to level set expectations, especially with all the other changes that are
Sure.
coming? Like, I think it's wonderful, I think they're all positive changes.
Yeah.
But there's gonna be a lot of friction.
There will be.
And so let's start getting people's minds wrapped around that,
Sure,
especially before we ask them to sign the handbook.
sure. Obviously, newsletter updates to begin, first day of school. Love to, the students, so I'll be up in front of them, like kind of give them some rundown of like, hey, here are some changes that are gonna be happening. Especially with the, like, with the SRG stuff, I'll be revisiting that with staff as they get into it, like. I mean, I don't expect them to like, hey, here's our like reassessment policy on the very first day, because that's probably not real practical until a couple of weeks in, but we'll be revisiting that, like. That'll be more of a week to 2 weeks in type thing, but you're right, like preloading a lot of this student handbook stuff up front is gonna be important.
And I'll say on the handbook, and I might circle back to that, let's comment. These were a couple of minor detail
Sure.
things. We still list this, a specific detective name for our level 2 investigator, and we should not.
Sure.
Yeah, drill team is now referred to as dance team. And I did not understand on page 11, it says direct extensions of the curriculum that are co-curricular and not extracurricular contests or competitions will not be subject to the good conduct policy, but we were listing co-curriculars in the sentence above, so I was just like, I didn't understand that, but it might be my
Okay.
cold brain.
Well, no, I want to make sure that it's more clear. I mean, co-curricular, basically with eligibility with that, it's anything that like students would get assessed on. So if they're part of like, if they were part of choir, they have a concert, right? And like, I can't hold them out of something that they're gonna get assessed on as part of their, grade.
That's
Grade.
Yes. Is that?
Can you get graded on being in a concert?
Yeah, they do.
High school choir and band is a graded.
Does that help?
It's helping. I'm trying to reread it with that in mind.
Okay.
I will say that
Johnny
it's
One.
probably not clear, but as long as we.
Yeah, no,
understand it,
well, and I'll take a look at it again too.
I don't know, I guess outside of your example, I don't know that we have any others.
The play this year was, well, it was a musical.
What about speech?
Oh.
Speeches too. Yep. Because it's part of their, it's part of their course.
They have to participate in like the speech team, individual or large group, if they take speech as a course.
I don't know.
But if they are, it's part of the course that they're taking, because that's part of the curriculum. Or it's part of our course offerings, I should say.
So that wouldn't be considered a co-curricular, no.
I don't think, I,
you're accepting one and not
individual
the
and large group speech are still extracurricular,
Yeah.
right? And they're not getting a grade for it.
Yeah, I don't know the answer.
If they take speech class, they get a grade for the speeches they deliver in that class.
Oh, yeah.
I don't
that's
think you can force them to do individual or large group speech and go to a competition.
correct. That's correct, yes.
I think your point was to say that we were not going to remove their ability to do things that were graded.
Correct.
Not that we
Cannot.
would force you to do
Correct.
them.
Correct.
Yeah, so I think if you can,
I guess they need to structure.
if you can
differently.
just double check it and see if you can make it.
I will. Well, no, if it doesn't make sense to you, I mean, how many other people are thinking the same thing? Probably a lot.
It could probably just be structured.
I would say there's just a potential there, I
Yeah.
guess. And then. I didn't bring it up in the cell phone policy because like the board policy is what it is and it has to be there. But on a handbook level and an enforcement level. Like we said, we've always had this policy, but we've never, from what I can tell, enforced it. So, like, what are we gonna do to create more consistency across classrooms? And truly do enforcement of it the best we can without creating a bunch of additional work for our teachers. And I don't know if there's going to be at some point, can we be reported to the state because we're not enforcing it? And I, like, because I hear consistently, like, there are parents and kids. So like, if we're not enforcing it, can we have parents go, my school's not enforcing it? And then we are in
We would be in a world of hurt.
a, like, regardless of what the ramifications are, we don't.
I
Or
think
maybe
that's,
that will enforce it.
I think that's part of your, like you were saying, getting this out in front of parents.
Well,
Yeah.
Say, this is the expectation this year. I mean, it is now a law.
It is a law.
And it will
And
be.
to staff too, and that's an important piece,
It's
because there are some staff that will just.
But I mean,
Yeah.
No,
You just say, hey,
you
kids,
can't do that.
you can't be texting me in the middle of the day. or
Correct.
doing Whatever.
Correct.
Let's utilize everybody to create
Yep.
a system that can support enforcing this.
That's gonna be a big change. I mean,
Yes.
It will, and I will say our kids are good about, well, so-and-so lets me use it. Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty liberal.
Because then that becomes a performance issue on the,
That's what
employee.
happens. Yes. They're not following state law. I mean, you don't have the option to just, oh, I'll just let the kids use their phone. When they're done.
An assessment.
That's not
My
gonna be checked.
Okay, so that would be my commentary on that.
Sure.
That I think we just need to be really hold a hard line and make sure that
Oh, yeah.
everybody's going forward with that expectation.
Absolutely.
And then it also states in there that they can't use it in the bathroom or locker room. That one feels much more difficult to
It's
enforce.
almost impossible.
So I almost want to remove it so it doesn't leave gray area unless somebody has a big objection to that.
Well, the only issue with that is,
I mean, I don't want them using
If
them
they're-
there, but how are we gonna enforce that?
right, I guess it would come down to whether or not their trip to the restroom or locker room is occurring during what we're defining as instructional time.
I'll let you guys noodle on that. It's just one of those where I'm like,
you're not supposed to vape in the locker room either, but. Supposed to do it, I mean, you gotta have a rule there, I think.
yeah,
otherwise you can't. Yeah, if you have a rule, then you can't.
More than anything, what we've,
maybe it's during instructional time needs to be added to that statement, because when I see that, it's kind of outside of the scope of the rest of it. Kids are like after school are going to use their phones in the locker room before they go first.
where we see kids get in trouble with that is where you'll see bans on that is because they end up taking a picture of something in the locker room or the restroom.
That's the issue.
That's
And
where I'm
then,
like,
and now you have a legal issue.
That's where I'm like, I don't know where the line is. They shouldn't be using them because of the bathroom pictures and the locker pictures, but just.
Yeah.
Something.
Clarification.
Thank you.
And then we have no food or beverage other than water is allowed in the classroom, and then directly following that, we say teachers are allowed to like make up the rules. So I'm like, let's just
Yeah.
either remove the first sentence or remove the
Sure.
second.
Second.
I
I
get it.
know food and beverage ends where it ends up in the classroom. I've seen it. Or ask the custodians their opinion.
Hey,
Yeah.
I know they're.
Here, I'm not. gonna speak. That was the extent of my feedback.
well, I appreciate that, actually. Thank you. SRG handbook, obviously, the biggest thing, was defining parameters, defining what a reassessment opportunity is, how students can ask for it, what they have to do to kind of earn that right for a reassessment. So just really trying to kind of shore some of those things up. I felt that was important, so did my staff. I would say through a couple different surveys we did this school year, that was the overwhelming feedback from our staff was, we gotta get this SRG under control, or else just get rid of it. I'm not, we asked a couple different times for different feedback from staff, and that was always overwhelmingly, we gotta do something about this. So this is kind of a summary of those changes that we made, or at least are gonna try for this year. Obviously, it'll be kind of a work in both handbooks obviously are works in progress. But that's kind of a summary of those, so. Feedback for that.
I didn't have any issues with what was that being asked to implement. Again, it came down to communication, teachers all utilizing it
Correct,
consistently across the board.
correct.
So there's no question, students on
Yep.
the expectations and other teachers aren't put in awkward situations because it's not being used consistently.
And there's still some autonomy there too for teachers, like, if you wanna reassess them this way, you can do that, but if you like to get some feedback from students another way, that's fine
Like,
too.
the date deadline,
Yes.
I think is the
Accountability.
biggest
Yes,
one. Like,
accountability.
you're not allowed
Oh, I
to
know.
go on in one classroom, but not another.
Correct.
Like, that one is a big one I think is core to
Yep.
this. And even if you evaluate and you adjust, make sure you're doing something consistently for a semester.
Yeah.
Before you adjust.
I agree.
Don't shift mid-semester.
Absolutely, that'd be completely unreasonable for students, especially, but, yeah, for sure. For sure.
And I think it'll be
Yeah.
interesting if do teachers keep track of reassessment numbers or requests, I should say.
We haven't really, because it's just been so loosey goosey, but this, I mean, I'm literally like, no, you're gonna have like, like this form must be filled out. Like, if a student wants to reassess, they have to like they have to fill this out. So we'll actually, I'll just tell them to keep that
I
information.
think I'm, again, not trying to add additional load. I think it's always interesting to me if we have the ability to use the data to track trends over time.
That's part of the
Especially
reason for that
If you
too.
see like, oh, this curriculum is really not working because now we're getting tons of reassessments. Or this curriculum is the same, but this teacher's not, and now we're getting a whole bunch of reassessments.
Right.
I think it can be really indicative of issues. So, if we can, it
Yeah.
would be awesome.
Absolutely.
I don't want to undue burden.
No, that was part of the process and I didn't outline that, but that's what I had in mind for that. Or as rationale for that too.
Sure thing.
The incident progression, I just wanted to point that out to you guys, most 99% of our students, this isn't something that really is a thing, but like, I just really couldn't stand. The inconsistency this year, just kind of like, hey, if you do this, you can maybe have this, but there was just really no, I don't know. I had a couple different templates that I grabbed, pulled, I mean, I helped co-construct it in Grinnell when I was there, but then I also had BGMs. I had North Mahaska's, I had a copy of Montezuma's from last year when I was there, so it had some smaller schools as well, so it just kind of picked, grabbed, pulled from a bunch of different schools to kind of pull all that together. I just felt like we needed a little bit more consistency across the board. Again, that communication piece to everybody, like, hey, if you do these things, this is what's gonna come down the pipe to you.
Yeah, I
Or
think
for you.
there's room for interpretation and how you evaluate what is listed, so I think that'll be something to work through, but
Sure.
on the SRG list.
Oh, yeah.
Two
go back.
different conversion charts on page 6.
Oh, I know, yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
that's intentional.
it's still a draft, it's, yes, that, one of those will be dropped,
Okay,
yes.
how do you plan to enforce the loss of
Spike strips.
parking? Somebody just waits outside to see that kid. Spike strips.
Yeah, that one will be, that one's one of the hardest, it will be one of the hardest to enforce, yes.
Well, maybe one of those, honestly, that you do utilize an SRO for.
Okay, I just make sure.
Yeah,
we're gonna
that's
need
for
some
sure,
help.
and really, there's really only a couple kids that don't handle the parking appropriately. And if you would have driven by last day at school, you saw kids filling in holes out in the parking lot because of the choices they were making, so. Yeah, but again, another reason why our kids are great is because they'll let me know when things are happening, so. Yeah.
Having that chart. Here it is. You do this is what you get.
Absolutely. It's great for the
It's easy
kids,
to-
but it's good for me too. I mean,
But
this is the second time
I
you've
think
done
it's
this.
gonna be really beneficial for your staff
Uh-huh.
to understand. And they can't say, well, we don't know what he's doing, or he did this in this situation. It gives you
Yep.
the opportunity to be consistent.
Yep.
Or even like a discipline issue with this it's done thing. This is what he did, here's.
Yeah.
Here's the punishment,
This is where we're at.
so. Is that in the handbook too? I don't, is there a link to that?
Yeah.
Incident?
Yeah, I'll link it. There's kind of a part in the bottom of the handbook that talks about behavior. I'll link it right to there.
That's-
Really, I know it was a lot. And like I said, hopefully moving forward next year, this time, a year from now, it shouldn't be nearly, I mean, tweaks, but it shouldn't be nearly this, just volume of stuff at one time. Just hadn't been done in a while, so. Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the feedback.
Approve the secondary student handbook,
Second.
favor say aye.
Aye.
Handbook's been approved. Roll it.
We only have one resignation, which is Josh Long, assistant cross country coach. And one contract, yeah, same service as high school football.
Questions on this? Take a motion to approve the resignation first.
So moved. Second.
Favor say aye.
Aye.
Resignation's been approved and the new contract for assistant football coach.
So moved.
Second. Say aye.
Aye.
Contract's approved.
I can check the number one, they're all kind of the same thing. So the first one I'll talk about is, we did, I sent you a notification, we did get an SRO hired. They'll still have some training to do. Later in this month in Council Bluffs, but, Josh Britton has been hired. It sounds like he comes to us with some good experience and I believe his wife is the SRO at Newton, so. Once he kind of finishes his
And
training.
from here.
Or his wife, okay.
What?
Sarah Keeling. Sarah, you know Judy Judy Keeling. It's her daughter, Sarah.
What year?
Why?
Probably mid-teens, but no.
That's-
Like 2015, 16, somewhere there.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't know that name.
Uh,
Was he in the parade?
No, that was the town. That was the one that they're not there.
Okay.
So once he finishes his training up, we'll get an opportunity to kind of get together with him. We've got an office, I'll have an office in the secondary office there. And I think it sounds like it'll be a good fit, and I'm glad it's somebody who understands the position. And that was kind of one of my concerns is bring somebody in law enforcement, they're in an SRO position, in a school with 420 kids, they might not know what they're getting themselves into. As far as boredom. So I think you'll understand the position, so that's a positive thing. Just some projects, facilities, ground stuff, the concrete work we're just waiting on, that slip guard to come in and that'll go in front of those steps and that'll finish that up. If you walk around the building, you can see some areas where they've been doing some grinding and they've replaced slabs and things like that, so at least this phase of that concrete work's done. First week of August, we'll have, the roof over the weight room fire that'll get replaced. We've had some repairs in the meantime to some areas that we've had leaking. So is that the same week that gym floors are being done?
what is it?
Dead week is when our gym floors are being redone.
I thought it was next week. This is our floors.
Oh, yeah, next week's our floors.
Yeah.
We are gonna replace the carpeting in the special ed room, that's in dire need of that as well. And we do share, we have a sharing agreement with GMG, so my head of maintenance up there has come down here and worked with Craig. As far as kind of showing him some things, with stripping and waxing of floors. We're gonna purchase a carpet cleaner extractor. In the past, what we had done is paid somewhere between $2,000 and $2,500 a year and had somebody come in and on a rotation and clean. This will be a one-time purchase of $4,000 and we'll just purchase a solution and our staff will do that. So trying to bring some of those things in-house, making sure we have the people to do it, and I feel a little more comfortable about that now. Craig's done a good job of really getting after things that need to be addressed, maybe that have gone by the wayside. Certainly still learning and getting his feet wet, but transition so far has gone well.
We had, Woodlands.
Just waiting on them to come in and start the process. Yep. A couple of other things, I don't know how much you've seen of this, but we've had some of our title funding has been frozen by President Trump. So we haven't been able to apply for it. I think it's for us right now is it's gonna account for about $20,000 worth of funding that we're unsure that we'll be able to ask for. Most of that's allocated to salaries.
Oh,
All of it's allocated to salaries, so there may be 20,000 there that we may have to come up with on our own. We're just waiting for the Department of Ed to tell us what's going on with it.
Is there anybody left there?
Well, I think that's probably the issue, right?
All right.
So once we have a little more information on that, we'll be able to provide it, but until then, we're not really sure what the status is with it. It's just been frozen at this point. The other thing that was passed this legislative session is for any school board member or elected to office, they have to take a 60-minute to 120-minute course on the open meetings law after elected within 90 days of election. So the state will probably provide us an online course or something to that extent. So in November, anyone elected to the board will have to take that. If you've already been elected, I need to see what it says about re-election. I'm not really sure on that.
yeah, I'm not sure about.
My guess, I don't know. If you're, my guess is when you go through the re-election process, you're probably gonna have to do it as well.
Well, they offer it at the state convention. We do
The open meetings law thing.
trainings on that. We all took it before we were even sworn in, so I don't.
That's less than an hour.
I don't
Sure, it's
think
not-
they
I'm sure
will
it's not
adjust
good
that.
enough.
I'm sure they will adjust it. but
Yeah.
They may allow that, but I'm gonna also guess they're gonna push out an online platform, something virtual for you to take at your own pace in case you can't go.
And a way to verify
Track
that you
it,
took it, because
yeah.
that's usually what happens is, there's a timer, a minute, and you can't press go till the timer's up.
And they've increased, they've substantially increased fines for individuals and districts that violate open meetings law. That was part of the legislation as well, so I don't see that really as being an issue and typically what we deal with, but it's something that Julie and I will certainly be cognizant of anytime we are even thinking about a closed or an exempt session. Kind of it for now. It's a little bit slower, for another week or so, maybe, and then we'll ramp up again.
Did you want me to get an update on when that milling's gonna be done?
Yes,
Then,
please.
is that something
Yes,
you want me to dig into more?
yes.
Okay.
I think that, I certainly think we can utilize it. To Tyler's point, we've talked about the asphalt millings.
Mhm.
Number of people I have talked to have, really recommended, sealing it.
So I spoke to somebody else that's done this, and I think the big part is like if they mill it, haul it out, spread it. Biggest part of it is to get it compacted and seal it like you're saying, and then let it sit in that sun bank and you're gonna get it hard, but like. I didn't think I put that in my message. I don't know if we want to reach out to that company who's gonna spread it and see if they would. Compact it. I don't know if the city's gonna utilize them for that. I can try to find out.
Yeah, maybe find out, or if they get a contact and they say, well, we're not utilizing for it, if you wanna talk to them about it, go ahead. And we can reach out to them as well.
Okay.
If you're ultimately trying to just use it as gravel though, there's no reason to spend the money.
Well, the issue would be is what do we want, if we're gonna use it out front where we park or thinking about having that drop off lane. In front of the elementary, that would be that might be the one area
Yeah.
that I would. Think about that, at the complex, no,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, okay.
Cause yeah, this complex, if you just get it spread out.
Yeah.
And over time driving on it and that,
It'll-
making it.
It'll still make it,
yeah.
but yeah, it'll still be a good solid. I mean, it'd be better than just regular gravel.
Yeah, 'cause I thought I heard it was gonna happen at the end of this month, but as I was driving down the highway, I see. There's some red markings out on streets already of where they're. Picking their spots, so I don't know if that means it's coming up or not. So I can ask,
Yeah,
I'll reach out to him tomorrow.
and just let me know. Any other questions?
Good enough. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Fair say aye.
Aye.
You're 7:08.
Save it exact time to the minute for last month.
Was it? Well, we would have done 2 minutes earlier.
Thank you for that.